They are insisting they have to continue this billing that is not scientific, because through it, you can get more out of the customer. You can actually please the customer. So at the end of the day, if it is told to us that between 89 and 99, there was no investment in the power sector, I will say that between 99 and 2005, there have been investments. No investment in 10 years, investments in 15 years. Why should we focus on those 10 years rather than the 15 years? So I think what is the problem is that of capacity. The people have to understand that if there is a deficit of 5 to 10 million meters and you are just bringing 100,000, you've just barely scratched the surface. So we have to think of investment and the capacity that matches the challenges and the problems on the ground. So it is not something that Nigerians are willing to accept in terms of an increment without a commensurate improvement in power supply. And there seems to be no roadmap, no promise to say that between now and the next 6 months or the next 1 year, this is what is going to change. We are walking a blind alley. We are being led by the nose. And I'm insisting that this is not the way to go in this modern age. They should give us indicators and milestones of what they want to achieve, even if we agree to pay the new bill, so that we can now evaluate their performance over time, rather than allowing them a blank check and keep hearing the stories we had on Obasanjo are still the stories we are hearing in the year 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Ngr there, Were. And we're talking about increase in electricity tariff. And we'd like to go to Richard Odia, who is the chairman, Economic Policy Committee, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, because what we're talking about here is something that the meters, the prepaid meters that we have manufacturers in Nigeria, and they're not being patronized. Instead, they depend on estimated bills, which in fact is a rip-off on consumers in Nigeria. And that notwithstanding, we see an increase now where you have to consume. Even this Twitter here, but let me go to a Beams Owen, who said, discos should have maintained uninterrupted supply for at least 12 hours daily before hiking tariff. Also make prepaid meters available. Mr. Richard Odia, what is your take on this? Reginald, I beg your pardon.
Let me just correct a small error. My name is Reginald Odia, not Richard. Now, I'd like to take on these comments you want me to make from a couple of perspectives. One is, I'm agreeing with my friend Eze, from Owerri, that I am surprised. I was the chairman of the Electrical Electronics Sectoral Group of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria for many years. And I know as a fact that many of our members have invested in the assembly and production of meter locally. So I'm also aware that many of our distribution companies are not interested. So my question to my friend from Ibadan is, why at this stage, after 2 years of, taking over a distribution business, you still import? Also, in view of the cash flow we have in terms of importation, I know that many of our manufacturers have huge stock of local meters, which can be used. You need to meet with them, discuss with them, and get it over with. The second one I also want to talk about is funding. He's talked about huge sums of money that they need to get into electricity. I think that they've not approached it in a proper manner. They should look at the best method of looking for money. And I think Eze made a few suggestions going to the stock exchange and so on. I will say, look for partners. There are international partners that are prepared to invest so long as you're prepared to share with them. So this issue of monopoly we are trying to hold is wrong. That's point number two. Now, the point number three is that the generation, transmission, and distribution system in our country today has some errors. For example, transmission. The central transmission system can only transmit so much amount of electricity. And this is known by these various three arms of generation and distribution. So what have you done? What happens to embedded generation? What happens to decentralizing generation? So that you can draw power from different units without going through the central transmission unit. If the transmission unit is faulty, you can look for other ways of doing it. So what I'm saying is that we are not innovative as far as electricity supply and distribution in Nigeria is concerned. When you begin to segment it and say, the generation this, the transmission this, and the distribution this, you're just going back to the old story. And that's why people still talk about NEPA. As a distribution company, you should be even more innovative than the two other organs, than the generation and the transmission. You must find a way, because you are the ones that are dealing directly with the customers. You know their problems, and your responsibility as a business person is to find solutions to those problems so that you can make money. You need to sell your products to make money. But you don't make money by twisting people's arm and collecting money. This is what is happening. And by the way, let me tell you that I'm the chairman of the forum in Ikeja. So I'm aware of the problems of consumers. I'm also aware of the problem of the distributors. But the point I'm making is that the distributors are not doing enough to ensure that they supply power to consumers. They are not doing enough to ensure that there's a fair play between power supply and distribution. If you cannot distribute, let your customers know and be fair with them. This issue of charging people and making them pay and then keep importing meters at your rate is not a business way of doing things. You can't make money with it, and you're trying to make money by doing the business on the other side, the wrong side of it. So those are some of the key things. I think that we should move away from transmission. This single transmission system should be jettisoned, because for us in the manufacturing sector, we pay a lot of money. We pay 2-3 times what we are being billed on the D1, D2, D3, and even on the Cs, where our small and medium scale consumers are involved. Therefore, we are ready to look at assisting you and working with you to ensure that we have some elements of generation that can be reliable. Because I've mentioned earlier that the power that we are generating now is absolutely unreliable, because a situation where all of a sudden you're running a production and there's a power cut without notice, for many of the manufacturing processes, will just destroy your raw material, destroy your equipment, your jig, and so on and so forth. So in production, you run your your generators, and run your production. So all through this process where we are saying, we've made capacity and we are increasing capacity, for us as manufacturers, we're not doing the right thing. And I think there's need for us to talk. I think there's a process now ongoing, and the Minister for Power, power, transport, works, and that's, Mr. Raji Fashola, is actually hitting the nail on the head when he talks about looking at what we call the mini grid for industrial clusters. So those are some of the things we can develop to get ourselves out of the central distribution system and decentralize it. Move energy to where you need it and distribute it within there, and then allow the central distribution system to service those ones that you have capacity to service. And then those that are ready to pay extra based on this mini grid should be ready to pay and make sure they have quality power. Because power is very important to everybody. And it's even more important to manufacturing, because that is what you use in turning the wheels of your machines and equipment. And when you don't have that, you're not in manufacturing. And that's why today, cost of manufacturing in Nigeria is about 2 times that of Ghana. It's about 9 times that of China. And by doing what we are doing now, as far as the electricity sector is concerned, we are not helping the economy. So we need to sit down and talk about moving forward. I'm not looking at saying that we bought something that is this, there's huge huge sums of money that is outstanding. No, you should look at how to close that gap. And I think that that is what the discos are not doing, and perhaps that is what the transmission companies are not doing. I think they should come together. And we as manufacturers, we are ready to work with them in developing this. They should buy locally made meters, which are available. If they have grounds with it, they should sit down with the manufacturers, give them their specifications, and make sure that they meet them. And then you patronize them. Don't tell us you're importing. I've had that problem with the Ikeja Disco, and I've told them exactly my concern. CAPME, many of you have decided not to go by it because you found that it's not profitable. But that is the right way to go, to enable you control your energy consumption. If you don't have a meter, how do you now control your consumption? We are talking about energy saving equipment and so on and so forth. How do you now use them if you're going to have estimated billing? So for me, I think we have huge problems, which are also very simple to solve if we can all work together as a team. And I'm saying that we are ready to work with the DISCOs, we are ready to work with the Minister of Power to come up with solutions that will come up very quickly and begin to resolve the problems of power supply in our country.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Odia. There. Well, yes, still stay with you, but briefly too, you've itemized so many things that could have gone wrong, even from lack of patronage to some of those locally produced meters. Of course, these are things that we should actually look into, if judging by the government of the day's decision to actually improve the economy or work in other areas actually to improve the economy. Let's take a look at even some of the areas raised on collection losses, because if we have such meters in their different numbers, definitely collection will be easy to do, and some of the losses being recorded by some of these DISCOs and GENCOs, as the case may be, may actually be curtailed. Moving forward, really, closing this wide gap on the meter, what were those complaints in the past that made them not to actually approach you? As in, yes, for so just still, what were those complaints? Because if those locally made meters were actually in consonance with what is expected, definitely there will be patronage. What should we be doing moving forward, really?
Thank you very much. There are two things involved. One is that most of the owners of the DISCOs still have the mentality of, the PHCN. Those mentalities are always wanting to import and import and import. The locally manufactured meters and local manufacturers of meters are ready to sit with the distribution companies and discuss with them on standards and quality and quantity that are needed. The stories I hear and complaints I get from my forum is that the DISCOs are looking for what they call smart meters, and therefore local manufacturers cannot produce the nature of smart meters they want. And I say it is wrong, absolutely wrong, because as manufacturers sourcing our raw materials, we go to the same market internationally. So all you need to do if you want to patronize, do a local patronage as the current government is encouraging, is to sit with the local meter manufacturing and in fact other electrical equipment manufacturers locally. Give them your specification, give them your standards, and give them time to develop it for you. And I'm assuring you, being a chairman of the Electrical Electronics Sectorial Group for many years, that we have capacity to change, meet your standards and your requirements within a very, very short time. And I'm happy that government is pushing into that, encouraging patronage of made in Nigeria products. There should be more laws to hold our people down. Not only the distribution companies, but also ministries, agencies, and parastatals to patronize locally made products. Because we have capacity, and that's the only way we can create jobs, that's the only way we can make money, and that's the only way you can develop local capacity to not only meet internal requirements, but be able to export. So those are the points I would like to mention to my friend, and hope that we can develop it more.
Richard Odia, we thank you so much. He's of Reginald. I don't know what it has to do with Richard here, but Reginald Odia, we thank you so much of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria for those contributions, and pointing to the fact that put a question mark on the distribution system where it is centralized currently, and the need to decentralize the distribution system to accommodate, to be more efficient. I'd like to go to Mr. Sunday Odeton on this very issue. Why is it impossible to decentralize your distribution system, and also the issue raised by the current Minister of Power, Works and Housing on mini billing of industrial clusters. What are your takes on this?
Well, thank you very much. We really, for us, we are very happy that we have a new tested Minister of Power, Works and Housing. And I agree with my brother in Lagos that we all need to sit down and work things out. At the end of the day, we are in the business of distribution of power. So anything that can help us to distribute electricity, of course, we are more than open to that. But let me quickly address the issue of meters and the locally manufactured meters. In terms of manufacturing, what we have mainly in Nigeria is we assemble, companies are here that assemble meters. Well, you call that producing meters, fine. But I know that most of the components are made abroad anyway. So they also import most of their components abroad. But that's fine. It is in our interest to meter our customers. It is also in our interest to ensure that we get the right set of meters. My senior brother in Lagos has answered the question anyway when he mentioned the issue of smart meters. Because what we need, I've been mentioning this, and my brother in Lagos has not even replied to the fact that there is a huge, and I'm happy he's the chairman of the forum, the amount of bypassing in this country, tampering in this country, is embarrassing. Unless we all come out sincerely and say, yes, that's one of the major problems in this sector, then we cannot solve the problem. So the issue of metering, of course, we need smart meters. Ikeja is currently rolling out smart meters. Even when they started, people were bypassing it, but we were able to know that from the center, from the server. And for our colleagues, for our people, the local manufacturers of meters, we are more than willing to patronize them. I can even tell you here that the cabinet scheme that we have, we make use of the locally manufactured meters. So the issue of not patronizing them is not even the issue. The main issue is that we are running a business and we should be real. Number one, your business needs to be competitive in terms of